about the upcoming workshop. So when I'm looking at this, I'm not seeing any faces, so I'm talking into the camera. So, but I know that you're all there, so I'll keep that in mind and visualize your faces. So to begin, so this webinar is to go over an outline or overview of the upcoming Serpent Power Weekend Workshop with myself. And before we begin, let's go ahead and start with 4 short, brief chants of Om. And as we'll also discuss in the workshop, Om actually is from ancient Egypt. It's a Kemetic name of the divine. So as we chant it, we're going to feel connected to our divine essence, and we're going to feel the vibration of it coming from, we're also going to have a serpentine type of focus with it, feeling the vibration of it coming from the base of the spine up through the area of the spinal column, all the way to the crown of the head, and then up there with each chant. So sit in with your spine straight, shoulders back. We're going to inhale through the nostrils, belly swells back out like a balloon. Exhale, pulling the abdomen to the spine, letting the air go out through the nostrils. Inhale deeply. And exhale. And inhale, and we'll start with our chant. Hatap, 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 Dua. So I'm Sba Dja. I think most of you on the call know me. So I'm going to be the one leading the workshop, and I will be doing so with the assistance of what I refer to as my Serpent Power team, our Serpent Power team. And you know, most of the personalities here, most likely, Asar Ong, Shems Akua, Shems Olapeju, and Uab Setna. So they're going to be assisting with the workshop. And so we talk about ARAT SEKHEM as a very ancient, like probably the oldest spiritual path to enlightenment. And in terms of world religions and world spiritual philosophies, it often does not even make the list, much less to make it to the top of the list. But we're going to show through iconography and teachings and scriptures that this is one of the oldest spiritual paths to attain enlightenment, so a mystical system. And many people know of Kundalini Yoga from India, and that is a later development, and it's very similar to the ARAT SEKHEM Serpent Power of Kemet. So this is going to be an intensive weekend, and we have a lot to cover. So as you can see here, all the things we're going to experience this weekend. So we are going to engage this ancient African Kemetic serpent power spiritual system through what we're going to refer to as an integrative approach. So we're going to do study of the scriptures. We're going to work in cleansing the SEFEK BARA, or the energy centers, what's known in the Indian system as the chakras, and we're going to do so through MAT, which are the philosophy of ethical conduct and ethical conscience. We're also going to integrate practice of the Kemetic or ancient Egyptian yoga posture system, and we're also going to do Sekhmet breath work. We're going to do a lot of working with the life force energy through the breath. And also we're going to incorporate a devotional aspect of the worship, like a devotional ritual aspect, as well as Uaa meditation. So as you can see, it's quite comprehensive. So it is going to be intensive. And those of you who have been to our programs in the past, you know they tend to be a little bit intensive. But that's understandable because we get together for so few times throughout the year in an in-person way. And the teachings really need to be shared in an in-person type of environment. So when we do have these sessions where we come together, we try to get the most out of it for spiritual enrichment. But it is also going to be integrative. So I want this section, this program also to be integrative as well. So intensive, but it's going to be integrative. And the way we're going to help to integrate it, and not just have it be just intellectual understanding, not just lectures, but I want it to be a type of understanding that has feeling, and we call that Sa. So Sa is going to be the overriding energy of this whole Serpent Power weekend. We're going to practice it in a way that we can understand it, and understand it in a feeling way, so that it's more than just an intellectual awareness or intellectual knowledge that we've attained. And the way we're going to incorporate this feeling aspect is that we're going to incorporate the devotional aspect, the devotional ritual aspect, and also the postures and the breath work. And that's going to bring a different, deeper enrichment to our understanding, our intellectual understanding. So throughout the presentation, I may use the term Kemet, and any of those spellings, Kemetic, and what we're referring to is ancient Egypt, of course, which is in the Northeast Africa. So this is an African tradition. So what is ARAT Sekhem? What is this Serpent Power Rising? So this image is of an initiate, and it's from one of the tombs in Kemet, in Thebes, in Luxor. And essentially what it's depicting is that the serpent power is like a vehicle through which consciousness rides into the heavenly realms. And you can see the original image on the right. And the ARAT Sekhem rising, when it rises up, the culmination of this experience is in what we call cosmic consciousness. Many of you have heard that term, and we're going to go into what exactly does it mean, because sometimes it's understood in different levels, and we want you to have like a really good foundation in the highest understanding of that term, so then that it has a certain meaning throughout the whole context of our program. So it culminates in the experience of cosmic consciousness, also called spiritual enlightenment, also called in the Kemetic system Nehast, or awakening, and also Sema, which means union. So this idea of cosmic consciousness, it sounds a little abstract, but in our daily life, how it relates to our day-to-day experiences is because it is the experience of abiding, peace, happiness, love. And so abiding is especially emphasized because then it's just not ephemeral, it's just not transient and fleeting type of glimpses where we go through this roller coaster ride in life of we experience happiness and then we experience unhappiness, we fall into love, then we fall out of love, we experience peace, and then we experience restlessness and agitation. So there's a way to experience this abiding peace, happiness, and love, and many people do not know that it's possible or how to do so. So this system of Shaitan Netter and these mystical type of systems are to allow you to reach that destiny, that rising in the most efficient and effective means possible. And you know, you may say, well, you know, I'm happy enough, you know, life is okay right now and I'm doing good. But really, if one reflects on everything one is doing in life, everything everyone in the world is doing actually, you will find at the very source of it, they're trying to attain peace, happiness, and love in an abiding manner. They're trying to find it in a continuous way, but it just cannot be found in this world of time and space, only through the mystical experience, which we are going to discuss in this program. So ARAT means serpent goddess, the term ARAT, the Kemetic term ARAT. And in this context, we're relating it to specifically the serpent goddess Uaa, and it's also spelled Wajet or Wajit, and many of you may recognize the term Waj. She's also known as the green one. Of course, Waj means green or to flourish. And in this context, we are going to refer to her, at least for this webinar, as the goddess of enlightenment, because really that's the purpose of the practice and the endpoint of the practice. So Sekhem means power or life force energy, and that's related to the goddess Sekhmet. And when we say goddess, of course, they refer to the goddesses or the divinities, but also these are cosmic principles of the universe. So Goddess Sekhmet is the goddess of principle, the cosmic principles of the life force energy. And so ARAT Sekhem, when we combine these two forces, these two goddesses, these two cosmic principles, it's an expression of the transcendental divine self, the universal transcendental divine self. And it expresses in the form of Goddess Sba Dja, who represents a dynamic creative principle of the divine self. And she actually manifests as creation, as duality. And she uses this life force energy, or the Sekhem, in a very special way that polarizes it and brings about duality that is creation. And what we'll discuss also is that really, is this duality, or is it only the appearance of duality? And we'll come to understand that it's really just the appearance of duality, and what that means for us in our practical lives and in our spiritual lives. And so the ARAT Sekhem, this discipline that we're going to practice now, it's sort of the opposite. It's instead of becoming the creative energy which polarizes, now we are going to engage a dissolution type energy, which is going to depolarize the process. So, and we're going to use this same dynamic nature of the goddess Sba Dja to depolarize and harness and utilize the Sekhem Life Force energy in a way that brings the individual consciousness back to universal consciousness, which brings duality back to oneness. And so the earliest known evidence of this ARAT Sekhem is the Horomaket, or the Harumaket, or what's known as the monument in Kemet that is known as the Sphinx. And we have geological evidence of its ancient origins being 10,000 BCE and even earlier, possibly. But conservatively, we say 10,000 BC. And you see these vertical grooves here in the Sphinx or the Horomaket enclosure. And those were created by rainfall. And you know, like if you have a rock or a stone outside your house, like think of, you know, and you have a drip from your roof, say, how long does that rain have to drip, drip, drip to be able to actually make an indentation in that rock? So sediment from this enclosure has been carbon dated to 10,000 BCE or earlier, which was the last time there would have been major rainfall in that area to have caused these grooves. So we have the Horomaket being 10,000 to 12,000 BC or even earlier. And until around 700 to 1800 ACE, somewhere in there, the Horomaket actually had a serpent. You can see the serpent head here. It had that serpent actually on its forehead in the area of the third eye, as you see depicted in this other iconography here. And that area, of course, is called the eye of intuition also, and it's known as the Ajna chakra in the Kundalini Yoga system. So the Horomaket actually bore that serpentine feature on its third eye area. So what we have in the Horomaket then is a combination of both the ARAT, the serpent iconography with the serpent at the forehead, at the third eye, and then we have the Sekhem iconography with the lean-in aspect, which relates to, as you can see in this image here, the lean-in headdress, which the Horomaket has, and the lean-in body, right? Looks like a lion, and the whole body and the mane. So you have this combination of the ARAT and the Sekhem in the Horomaket. So obviously it is a monument which brings together those two energies, those two cosmic principles, and it's evidence of this most ancient system for spiritual enlightenment. It's the oldest documented in our historical time in known human history. And of course, we also, some of you may also know that the Horomaket also is a representation of Sema Uaa, which means yoga. And that relates to union of the higher and the lower self, because we have the human, right? The human face with the serpent, which symbolizes the life force energy has risen all the way to the highest. And then we have the animal body, right? This is symbolic of the lower self. So we have all that animal lower self energy that empowers and fuels that expression of the enlightened consciousness, which, if you think of sages, enlightened sages, right, that's a symbolic representation of them. And in Kemet, this leaning iconography, which is really pervasive throughout the Kemetic teachings, was also representative of the priests and priestesses. They wore different apparel and motifs related to the lean iconography. And again, it's that lower force energy, that power symbolized by the lean aspect, by the line force and power, that's being, and the life force energy, that's all being projected and expressed through enlightened consciousness, which is the goal of the serpent power practice and the destiny of everyone in creation, no matter how slow their path. So the serpent power serpent in Kemet has 3.5 coils, and also the Kundalini serpent in India also has 3.5 coils. So then they're very similar spiritual systems. In the Kemetic system, we have the basket of Aset, or Isis is the Greek name, and you can see it here on the right, and that is the Kemetic serpent goddess with the 3.5 coils. And then on the left here, you can see the Indian Eastern Kundalini with 3.5 coils coming out of the lotus. So then the Kundalini system and the ARAT SEKHEM system are similar systems. So in our study, we'll study the serpent of the basket of Isis, the basket of Aset, and we'll talk about the significance of the cauldron it sits upon. It's actually a cauldron here it's sitting upon. So I have here an image of like a fire. And so this is what this is, fire and coals underneath. And it symbolizes a burning aspect. So we're going to talk about that burning aspect of that cauldron and what it means for that serpent. If you can think of a serpent, when it's in the cold, it kind of doesn't move, but when the sun comes out and warms up, it starts to move. So that gives a little idea of the meaning of that. And we're also going to talk about what the 3.5 coils mean. They have specific meaning. So the ARAT SEKHEM system of Kemet has another similarity with the Indian system. And that is, many people in the Indian system know of the chakra system. And again, like most people don't know that in Kemet, there was a system similar to the chakra system that is originally Kemetic. So the system is called the SEFEK BARA, or the 7 souls of Ra, and we refer to them as the energy centers, and they're similar to the chakra system of India. And again, this is a Kemetic iconography to show that this was there in Kemet. So this is the Greenfield papyrus, and here the chakras of India are depicted here as 7 chains around of the SEFEK BARA, or the energy centers. So we're going to go into, of course, that in the presentation. And this is another expression of the SEFEK BARA, and again, original Kemetic iconography, which shows that this idea of the chakras of the Indian system was already in the Kemetic system. And it's not surprising that there are these similarities, because at one point historically we know that India, ancient India, was a colony of ancient Egypt. So that we have these similarities, it's not surprising. And the Kemetic system has when you go back to something that's more ancient, it has a way of informing that which came after it. So that's one of the things I love about the Kemetic iconography, because and the teachings related to it, and the scriptures related to it, and everything we're going to bring together in this program, is that it's going to be very informative to our practice in a very specific manner, as detailed by the scriptures. So this is called the Kemet papyrus, and these names refer to the people that found them, or where they're located, the museums that have them, and things like that. So they're not the ancient names. And it shows the chakras as these spheres, the 7 spheres. And this is a very important image that we're going to also discuss, this monster and where exactly it's biting and why it's biting there. So also what's going to inform our study and practice are not only the images, but also translations of ancient Kemetic scriptures that are specifically going to tell us about the ARAT SEKHEM system and how the serpents rise up and how they come up through to the crown of the head, and the dual serpents become one. So all of that is going to be a part of our practice. And again, it comes from our scriptures. So if you have if your feeling is such that you relate more to the mystical system of ancient Africa, of Kemet, then this would be a workshop for you. And even if it's you practice Kundalini, that this ancient practice, coming back to the roots of it, will help to inform your current practice also. Because oftentimes I find, like, well, I've my experience with the Kundalini system sometimes is that it's very superficial, and more energy is placed on, just raising the energy centers, the serpent power, but not on understanding the dimensions of who we are and how actually to do that in an effective manner. And we're going to discuss that a great deal throughout the workshop. That's the whole purpose of the workshop, actually. So these are other iconographies related to the ARAT SEKHEM system, and they're going to inform our studying practice. And there's a lot. I could have showed like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more just screens just with iconographies that will inform our practice, because it's so, I said, pervasive throughout the whole Kemetic scriptures and land. Everywhere you go in Egypt, they're in ancient Kemet and current Kemet, they're there. So the ARAT SEKHEM Serpent Power Discipline practice. So purity, 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 purity. Did I say purity? Purity, purity, purity. It cannot be said too many times. And again, this is a very important foundation for the ARAT SEKHEM system. You have to have physical purity of body, so what you take in. So we're going to have like vegan food, of course. Green foods. Remember I said wajit relates to green, so we're going to have green foods, vegan foods, and we're going to enjoin you, even though you're going to be eating at home, to just have those type of foods for that weekend. And bodily purity, doing the postures, mental purity, listening to the teachings intellectually, understanding them, listening to them over and over again. Sometimes people listen to the teachings and say, oh, well, I already know that. I've heard it before. I don't have to go. But we eat the same food day after day, every day, food, 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 food. And we never say, oh, like I've eaten that food yesterday, I don't want any more. I've already know what that is. So just the way we have to feed our physical body, we have to continually feed our mind and soul with spiritual teachings to at least try to counter all the other messages we get in this culture. So ethical purity, emotional purity, we have to have worked through our complexes and issues and conflicts, and we'll do some of the working through during this session, but sometimes these are extra things that one has to do separate from the teaching itself, and it's part of the greater aspect of spiritual practice. So in other words, one has to be a really well-adjusted personality to really engage the serpent power discipline. And if you're not a well-adjusted personality, then that means that you have to spend a lot more time doing the purification aspect of it, which is still part of the practice, but you have to spend a lot of time. And most people actually do need to spend a lot of time in this aspect of it. So we will discuss the book of Djehuty, who's known to the Greeks as Hermes or Thoth. And this book of Djehuty gives cautions about the serpent power practice, because insufficient purification can cause blocks in the subtle energy centers. And when you try to force past those blocks, but you've not purified yourself enough, and so you're not, it's like going all the way to the top of a mountain from the very bottom when you have not acclimated to the thinning of the air, and you get to the top and you're going to be in distress. So this purification is sort of like an acclimation to higher levels of the serpent power energy. And if you don't do that and you force things past, then they can short circuit and result in physical and mental imbalances and illnesses. So we're going to go over some of the cautions, and we're going to go over some of the expressions and experiences of those imbalances, how they may express. And the ARAT SEKHEM Shetty, Serpent Power of Discipline, Again, the emphasis is on physical, mental, ethical, and emotional purity. This must be established for the meditation process to be effective and not lead to illness. So I've had 3 slides in here so far. So we're going to discuss that, and we're going to discuss, again, what those imbalances may look like. So if you experience them, you can recognize them and know how to back up or how to integrate them, what to do. So we'll spend time on these foundational aspects as well. So we'll work to purify the SEFEK BARA, the energy centers or chakras, because as the ARAT serpent Uaa uncoils and moves through the psycho-spiritual energy centers, when they are sufficiently purified, it'll lead to increasing levels of expansion and consciousness. So we are going to spend some time also talking about what this sufficiently purified is. And here we're probably going to focus a little bit on the myth of Heteru and Lord Djehuty, to have an understanding of what that means when we say to be sufficiently purified. So we'll study and practice the mysteries of attaining heart center enlightenment, expressed in this powerful iconography below. So I'm not going to say more about that. That's something we're going to discuss at the program. And so we're using this integrative approach, as I said, to awaken and raise our ARAT SEKHEM, the serpent power. We're going to use the wisdom, the RAC, the Ma'at Ari, the right action, the Uashu, or devotional aspect, and the Uaa, the meditation, in addition to the ARAT. And we're going to add those to the Shedi ARAT SEKHEM, the ARAT SEKHEM discipline. So we're going to use breath work, which accumulates life force energy, concentrates the life force energy, and cleanses the energy centers to remove those energy blocks. We're going to do a special meditation called Nafura, Breath of the Goddess, Sekhmet. And we're also going to incorporate specific postures correlating to each of the energy centers in a way that we're going to use those to cleanse, heal, and balance the physical body and the mind and the soul. And we're going to incorporate the wisdom of enlightenment through our listening or studying or discussion or reflection or meditation, all in an effect to get the mind to a high level of purity. And when that mind reaches that level of purity, that's when you start to have those aha moments. Oh, okay, I get it. I understand, those moments of insights. So I'm hoping you'll have lots of moments of insights. And the fire, the cauldron, it leads to that burning fire of spiritual wisdom. And also we're going to practice Sema Uaa, which is the ethical conduct. So ethical conduct, if you know how to act rightly in situations relative to your own spiritual practice, relative to your interactions in the world, relative to your interactions with people, relative to the way you live your life, and the way living your life in a culture that does not embrace mystical philosophy as its foundation, how to operate in that type of a system and not get your energies just constantly being blocked, and then also how to release those blocked energies through the study, reflection, and practice of the precepts of Ma'at, and also the cosmic aspect of Ma'at as well too. How to create ethical impressions in the unconscious mind. So we'll focus on Ma'at to purify the first 3 SEFEK BARA especially, and release blocked energies related to those centers. And so this is the Kenna papyrus here on the right. And so you can see the monster biting 1, 2, 3, right? So it's very significant that we have that division being showed by that almond monster between the 3 and the 4. And we're going to relate it also to the judgment scene, which relates to purification of the heart, right? The heart, your unconscious mind, let it be as light or lighter than the feather of Ma'at, order, righteous, justice, purity in life. So all that's going to be a part of our program. And then devotional love. We're going to begin our program with a devotional session, and likely we're going to end it also with a devotional session. The devotion has the impact. I mean, just think of your children. Like, so children can get away with a lot, right? They can do unrighteous things, things that are really bad, and then they just like look at their mom, and the mom look at them, or they look at dad, and that look at that, and that love melts away like any like negative feeling in the heart. They may still have, you know, be grounded, or, you know, be disciplined in some way for whatever they did that was wrong, but that love overcomes everything. So it's a very powerful foundational tool, along with MOD, in the spiritual practice. And so we're going to work on that to release blocked energy, to relate it to the heart center, so you can release and experience that love that is your deeper essence that's already there, and learn to love universally, which has to be a part of the process. We can't become one with the divine or one with everything when we hate some things and love some things. So we have to learn to love universally. And so we'll discuss what that means in a practical way. So we'll enjoin devotional worship to God Suajit and Sekhmet. So we're going to have specific scriptures that are related to these divinities that we're going to read during our devotional sessions. And then the meditation. So all of this is going to be culminated in a meditative process. We are going to be doing meditations throughout, but the goal of this system is to be able to enter into a meditative state. And the meditation system harnesses and utilizes a life force energy through what we call a serpentine thought form vector process. So when we say serpentine thought, when I say a serpent, you have a certain type of image of forms in your mind as related to a serpent, right? Especially it's the cobra, the way it rises up, the way when it's sleeping and it's all coiled, the heat is applied and then it starts to rise up. And then when I say serpentine form, I'm referring to the shape and the energetic quality of that, like the undulating aspect, the way it moves. So that relates to the principle of vibration of frequency. And then when we talk about the serpentine vector, it means like the willpower that is used then to guide that serpentine imagery and form in a way that it rises up through the centers at a certain speed and in a certain direction, right? It's going upward, and how fast it moves in that direction. And the goal of this all, of course, and the ultimate endpoint of this is to dissolve duality, and restore the oneness, the non-duality. And we'll talk a little bit about the Temple of Set teachings, which is also a serpent power system, and how Goddess Set created what is called a Tapi Shepsi, which is her serpent. And the serpent is essentially you. You're forming yourself into the serpent, the serpentine consciousness. So as you can see from everything I presented, this is an integrative approach, and it's going to remove energy blocks in all different areas of the serpent power system, the SEFEK BARA. So it's going to free up a lot of the ARAT SEKHEM energy, and then we're also going to be accumulated ARAT SEKHEM energy to be put to use. For what purpose? To raise the ARAT SEKHEM serpent power energy, to increase in levels of establishment and expansion of consciousness. So I know this is the Florida program, but just to share with you, we are also doing another program in Atlanta. So if you do know of anyone in the Atlanta area who may be interested, you can let them know we are going to be doing a program there. We're actually going to have a Friday evening introductory program, Friday evening. That's going to be up on the website soon. So they can come to that also, and then, you know, decide if they are moved enough to want to participate, but they can also email us at Serpent Power to be able to view the webinar we have for Atlanta, and the promotional discounts we'll be having throughout the month. And then, of course, the one in South Florida, which is the subject of this webinar, is going to be on Saturday, July 28th and Sunday, July 29th. And it's going to be all day. I'm very begrudgingly giving up any time for registration. So at the end, I'm going to ask even that before you know, the conference dates, even if it's the 2 days before, that everyone have all their payments in, because I don't want to really take time during the conference to be doing mundane things of the world that we could be otherwise doing in the world, time and space during that weekend. I want us to have that focus and the few distractions of things that could take us out of that energy. And so we are going to provide lunch. Lunch is a part of it, and it's going to be a vegan lunch, and we're going to have herbal teas available, and likely we're going to have some sort of fruit or something in the morning, perhaps, you know, small, like some fruit in the morning as well too. For those in South Florida, about lodging, so it's going to be at a residence. We're going to use the residence for the presentation. So there might be some capacity to lodge some persons who are coming from outside of the U.S. At that facility. It would be an extra fee for that. So if you need information about that, you'd like to find out information about that, you can email us at Kemetic Serpent Power and specifically ask us the information about the lodging. Otherwise, Airbnbs or hotels around the area, we can provide you that information with. So I am going to turn it over to Sar Ankh, unless you all have any questions for me.
Okay.
I will end with an Om Hatap Hatap, although I think Asar Ankh also ended with a prayer. Om Hatap Hatap Hatap.
Om Hatap Hatap Hatap.
Hatap.
Okay, Uja again all. I want to say a special dua to Sba Dja for that, you know, really beautiful, you know, for those of you who are interested in the ins and outs of serpent power from a Kemetic perspective. It's going to be thorough and comprehensive. I'm pretty sure no stone will be left unturned. This is kind of a much, and that was just a, you know, kind of just a taste of actually what you can do with the serpent power system. And so this weekend intensive is designed to give you kind of a full immersion experience that that you can take with you, and you can also you know, continue beyond that point. So I'm sure you're aware, or you can sense that you will learn a lot. There is no you know, kind of holding back in Sba Dja, right? Good. So now we get to the kind of the hard part of the discussion, and that's always the, you know, the price. You know, when we do these kinds of things, often, you know, we present kind of spiritual, high level spiritual information, and we present it kind of to the community. And, you know, the tough part is always determining what actually is fair value for what we are presenting. And of course, there are costs, and there's a lot of things that are involved in making it happen, right? So we did a comparison, you know, for somebody to actually, if you had to acquire this type of information on your own at the level that Sba Dja is, you know, bringing it, you know, I could promise you, you would at least have to go to Kemet once. And nowadays that's a, you know, at least a $3,000 to $4,000 type of a trip, right? So what she is saving you by not having to do that, and giving you direct access to the serpent power aspects of the Kemetic knowledge and system, is actually very, very profound and powerful. Not to mention that, you know, you really cannot find this type of information readily in general. This is not something that's offered, you know, regularly. You know, literally, I don't think Sba Dja or Seba Uaa have presented on serpent power in years and years. So this is a very rare opportunity. So that said, you know, like I said, if you had to do it yourself, it would cost a lot. Now, if we look at and say, okay, since this is an exclusive kind of workshop, if we just value the 14 to 16 hours plus of actual serpent power training that you're getting, in circles, you know, you could say that $50 per hour for a high level training like this, that brings you information directly from Kemet is not, it's not, you know, too much. That's a kind of almost you know, that could be seen as fair value for something like this in a lot of places. And so if you did that, that would make the value of something like this somewhere around $800. And of course, we work with our community, so we don't necessarily charge value based on, you know, the actual value. We try to make it something that people can actually can work through and figure out. You know, it does require something on your part. You have to want to meet us halfway and say, okay, I'll that's, you know, kind of the biggest task in the world today is to, how do you really put a value? I mean, people spend, you know, tens of thousands on cars and, you know, hundreds of thousands on houses, and you say your spiritual evolution, and then all of a sudden, you know, we kind of balk at what that may mean and cost, right? So it's all about your values, and do you really value the spirituality that we're offering, or the level of wisdom that's being offered. Now, that's ancient and timeless at the same time, right? So the full price offering we are offering for the event is $395. It's $395. And for those of you, it does include the full 2 days, and it also includes the, what we didn't hear, but it'll be kind of we are still working out the kinks of a bonus intro workshop on the Friday night before. That details will be revealed as we tighten up a few loose ends where that's concerned. So $395. Now, what we've decided is for those who are on the call right now, and those who are, you know, kind of seriously committed to this, you did respond very quickly to when we put out the information about this, and we do appreciate that. And so we wanted to make it easy as possible for you to do this. And if you're willing to kind of play team with us, we're willing to play team with you. And so what we want to do for you guys on the call right now is we want to make a special offer for you to get the full weekend at half price, right? Literally a little less than half price. So $195. And to make it even easier, we want to break that up into 3 payments of $65, right? So 3 monthly payments of $65. That'll be, so what we'll do is now, so that'll lead you up to the event. So that should mean, you know, sometime before the event that money is paid up, right? So that's just now for a limited time. So we will extend that. Sba Dja has graciously asked that we extend that offer to you for just 7 days. So 7 days, you should, you know, decide if you want to make the $195 payment or you want to make the $65 payment. If you make the $65 payment before next Sunday, then you will be locked into the earliest and the lowest possible price that you can receive for this particular production. That price that we're giving you, literally all it does is it covers all our costs if, you know, we get a certain amount of people, literally. So it's not anything where we're covering anything other than our budget at all. And so we're really stripping it down to the bones, and we want to do our best to make it something that everybody who is, you know, really interested in this type of spiritual advancement has access to. Because the reality is that many of us will never, you know, go to Kemet, or rarely get to go to Kemet. And even if we go to Kemet, depending on who we go with, we may not get the full story. We don't necessarily get the mystical view of what's happening. We get kind of at best, maybe a historical and a cultural view. And sometimes, depending on who we go with, that's not even accurate historical and cultural perspectives at that, right? So this is a unique opportunity, again, with somebody who is, you know, not only traveled to Kemet religiously in the last few years, but also, you know, co-written, edited, you know, 60 plus books on these subjects. So, you know, you should be able to, you know, I'm sure you can sense that she really knows what she's talking about, and that, you know, this type of investment for those who are, if you're the kind of person that's interested in your own spiritual evolution now, that's the key, right? That you understand that your spiritual growth always takes an investment. That's just the way it happens. right? You don't get, spiritually enlightened, unfortunately, or fortunately, for nothing, right? You have to invest something, and that something is your time, your energy, and yes, even your financial resources, right? So with that, that's the offer that we have for you. Again, that's $195 or $65 down. You have the next 7 days until next Sunday, which will be the 6th of May, to make that first payment, 6th of May, 6th of June, and then the 6th of July. So you'll be paid up all before the event, right? So right now, at this point, if you have any questions or comments or concerns about any of that, I can open up the lines, I can unmute the lines, or you can also type into the chat box and let me know any questions that you may have that, either Sba Dja or I have not covered in this presentation. Any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Sandy. Let me mute a few people and then you should be able to hear. Give me 1 second.
Hello,
to mute.
can you hear me? Is there someone else on the line?
Could everybody else mute yourself, please? I can hear you. Just need to
How do
have
you
everybody
unmute yourself?
So in the screen, there should be a icon of a microphone. You're okay, Sandy. You don't have to unmute yourself. You just need everybody else to mute themselves so we can hear you clearly, the rest of us. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I think I might have gotten on the call a little bit late, but I just want to find out, I want to prepare to do the Florida
Yes.
process. So how do I make the payment and prepare for the Florida? When is the Florida process happening?
Good. So the dates are July 28th and 29th.
For Florida.
Right. The website with the link for the payment will be up sometime today. So it is going to be set up today. So we'll send out an email follow up for that. Is that the best route, Sba Dja?
Yep, that sounds great. Sounds great.
Okay.
Okay.
So that'll be in your inbox.
Okay, thank you so much. And now to mute out. What do I press?
All right, so I'll do it for you. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Anybody else, if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself, and I just made it available for you to unmute yourself, or if you have a question in the chat box. Okay. Shams Damas, do you want to say something?
I just wanted to know if there is any mental preparation as well as physical preparation one needs to go through so we can maximize the benefits of the session. Better.
Indeed. Okay, I think that would be a better one for Sba Dja to answer. Let me unmute her. Sba Dja, are you there? Hold on a second for her. Okay, while we wait for her, she must have stepped away for a second. Let's see if we have another question, and then we'll make sure to come back to that. Is that okay, Shams Damaz?
Me, that's okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she says she's coming. Do we have another question? Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Hello. Can you hear?
Uja, El Djehuty, good to hear your voice. You can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Yes, and to you be pieces. One question is type of with yoga or Kemetic yoga or meditation is required for people to be involved. Or I guess the question could be put
Yeah, El Djehuty, I don't know if you're still hearing me. If you are, your voice is not coming through clearly, so I'm not understanding your question very clearly. Maybe you can try again. Sba Dja,
Me?
we did have a question earlier from Shams Damaz about what type of mental and physical preparation should we be doing in prepping for the event.
So I think we're going to, once we get through this type of registration, setting everything up, which we're still going to have today, we're going to spend working to try to finish the webpage. And so after we get done with all of these details, then I think we're going to start sending out, for those who are registered, we're going to send out information relative to that. But I don't want it to be that, I don't want it to feel that anyone has to, like, I have to be prepared in a certain way to be there, because it is going to be integrative. And one of the things, like what Given Serpent Power Teaching says, like, you know, made me want to contemplate if I wanted to do this or not, is because no matter how you try to tell people, sometimes it feels like no matter how you try to tell people sometimes that don't do this or don't just try this is like really advanced, you know, people do things and then, you know, trouble happens sometimes. So, but this is going to be really focused on an integrative approach. So I think, you know, normal preparations would be, you know, if you are a Basu, if you're a Shems, you already kind of know that foundation you have. It's the same foundation, you know, diet, exercise, you know, meditation, ma'at. So it's the same integral shedi would be your foundation for this, right? And if you're not, and you would like to be a part of it, or you'd like to get more information on that, we have the online devotional worships that occur like twice a week. Shems Akua, Shems Olapeju, Shems Damaz, Shems Ta, you know, they know about that. You can join online, you can join via phone to start getting into understanding the chants that we do, to start getting the devotional aspect, to start to be cultivated in oneself. If there's specific questions that you have, like about something that you would like to be counseled on, a complex issue that you're having, you can email the Kemetic Serpent Power, or you can email me directly to, you know, counsel about it, how to go about working if you think it's something that you want to resolve before this, or maybe the teachings we give there might give you insights on how to resolve it as well. So really, it's a kind of like come as you are, but if already you have a foundation, then, you know, that will be well suited to the program. You'll be able to, you know, get more out of it for your personal spiritual practice. But it's open to someone coming who is a beginner, or who maybe just heard about it and they, you know, for some reason it connected with them, as well as to those who practice.
Dua. Do we have any other questions at this time?
Yes, I have a question. I wanted to know, is there a handbook that goes along with this class, and is there some type of certification from it?
I heard part of the question. I think, is there a handbook?
Is there a handbook associated with the class, and is there a certification that comes with the experience?
Right. So there's a book. We have a book, the Serpent Power, that we'll likely be sharing this as part of the preparations for you all. Like it might be included in the registration. If not, actually, I'm working on that, so I'll put it in there. What you may want to read the Serpent Power book beforehand. As far as the certification, no certifications currently for the Serpent Power system in this way. This might be a foundation, like for those who attend, if there is a certification program that comes out of this, then having attended this would be credited towards that. But currently for this one, this is and the reason for that is, again, it's because it's so it's something that can be taught in a basic way, but it's also something that one needs to have like so many different insights and so many different aspects. So if one wanted to become like certified in this, it would be like not only just attending the workshop, one would have to like become knowledgeable about the different myths that relate to the Serpent Power system in oneself. One would have to like know about the myths of Ra and Set. One would have to know about the glorious light meditation. So I guess we can speak about it. I have to speak to Sarong because he's the certification type of mindset expert that I would have to defer to as to perhaps how we can as perhaps how we could maybe lead that, because actually I was thinking about that process in the way Asar Ankh, I guess. I listened to his the presentation for the Atlanta one after the program, because I had another program to attend after my part there. And I guess he presented it a number of hours, and I was saying, well, yeah, this seems like it should go towards something. It's that many hours. So the thought process is there about it, but currently this is not specifically for that, but mainly because it's just such a, this is kind of not, it's not an overview. I want to say it's an overview, but if this is really your path and if this is what you want to do, then you will also come out of this knowing what it is that you have to further study and imbibe in yourself in a deeper way through your own practice. In other words, you have to become the Taffy Shepsy yourself. And so it certainly could be part of a certification process in an ongoing way. But it would need to be augmented by different presentations. And so possibly after this program, if those are interested in doing something like that, there's the possibility of like online, classes that we can have to go through some of those myths in a way to understand them as a part of a certification process. That's certainly possible. And it's, I would say that based on what I heard, the way Asar Ankh gave and probably what he said to you in this presentation, I wasn't here for the whole thing, the way he represented it as, 14 to 16 hours of Serpent Power training, that did kind of trigger that thought of the certification in my mind. So it's a possibility, but we would have to discuss it further too with the whole Serpent Power team to see how they, what their thoughts are about it, making it into that type of a process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah. Asar Ankh? Okay, Asar Ankh said he just lost his volume.
Okay. Thank you for that information.
Okay, Djehuty. Djehuty, I don't know if he's back on with his question or anyone else has questions.
Oh yeah, I did want to know what year was India actual colony of ancient Kemet?
So I would have to go back into the history archives for that, and to get that time frame for you. It's been a long time since I was in the history archives of the teachings. We go through different phases, and since we don't use it that often and go through that often, but I'll definitely have it by the program.
Okay, no
the time frame when that was.
Okay, thank you.
Let me see how he wants me to proceed.
I think someone did ask a question in the chat. About lodging.
Can you read it for me? Because I'm not seeing the chat showing up that way for myself for some reason.
It says, will the lodging details be available before the May 6th deadline?
Will the lodging be available before the
May 6th deadline? But I think it was June 6th is the deadline, right?
Right. Well, the lodging for the Florida at the facility where at the property where we're going to have it, the residence where we're going to have it. It's basically an Airbnb residence, so no one else is staying there. So it's going to be ours for the weekend, and so it does have like 2 rooms. And so if, well, more than 2 rooms, but 2 rooms, one could be used for female aspirants, one can be used for male aspirants if people want to stay there. So that would be available from the Friday and really through the Monday. So if you want to arrive the Friday, you would be able to stay there the Friday night, the Saturday, the Sunday, and if you leave Sunday, that's fine. Or if you want to stay Sunday night and leave Monday morning, that would be fine to stay there also. And I said we're going to have a fee related to that worked out for you shortly as well too. And it would be, I think, you know, share a room with others. It's very informal. It would be like, you know, family visiting, and you know, 2 bedrooms with beds in there.
Right.
The female room may have like 1 actually bed that may have to be shared. You know, like a large king size bed, I believe it has in there. So very informal, but other than that, you know, everyone is welcome to make their own arrangements at Airbnbs nearby. You know, we'll furnish the address for the residents, and then or hotels nearby. If you want to stay by the beach, it's 20 minutes away.
Greetings.
Boja, greetings.
Okay, peace. This is Divine. Sba Dja, how are you doing?
Very good. I'm very good.
Okay. I just the question I had was simply is how would we be receiving the method of payment?
So apologies. As I said, we are doing everything ourselves as we go along here, in addition to our time and space lives and work. So we will have the payment set up on the website, on the web page, and the webinar will be posted there also. And then, so I will have to send out the link for that, or okay. So I'll send, as long as we have your email and you receive the email from us about the webinar. If not, you know, email Kemetic Serpent Power, and I will send out the link as soon as we have the button put up there for the payment.
Okay, thank you.
So it'll be on that site. We just didn't get to it last night, so we'll try to get that completed today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dua. Any other questions? Could anyone make out what El Djehuti's question was? Shamsol or Shamsakua, could you? I thought I heard the first part of it, but pieces were cut in and out, and I couldn't quite make out the whole thing.
No, I couldn't understand what he was saying.
So any other questions? Otherwise, I think we can conclude. Any other comments? Let me just text this or we'll conclude.
To this process, and of course, on behalf of Sba Dja, and also the organizing committee, which consists of
that is me.
Okay, so you are in for a treat today. Sba Dja will
Okay, sorry about that. I was recording and it came to a halt. Okay, so I think we will go ahead and conclude. So sit in with your back straight. Inhale and exhale. We'll end with a chant that says, offerings are given to the divine to make us flourish, to make us watch, to make us green, to make us like Goddess Uaa, to make us enlightened. Kemetic sinetiri metuaj. Kemetic sinetiri metuaj. Kemetic sinetiri metuaj. Kemetic sinetiri metuaj. Om hatap 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 hatap. To everyone for joining, and so we'll have the we'll send out an email when everything is up for you with the webinar and the payment button and all of that.
Just got back in, Sba Dja.
Just got back in. We just said our prayer. Like,
that's how technology works sometimes.
For you. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do all for your interest. 1 week to make those payments in. Tap.
Tap.